birds. Lots and lots of birds. Hi, welcome to SnapShot, the show that's all about taking better photos, taking better video. I'm your host, Denis, and in this episode, we're joined by Tony Beck once again. Tony is a Nikon ambassador and well-known naturalist in the Ottawa area, and he's going to give us some tips on shooting birds and wildlife. We're also going to be taking a look at a new product from Cactus. It's a flash trigger, actually it's not a flash trigger, it's a camera trigger. So you want to check that one out. We'll do a review and we'll also do a tutorial on it. But before we get to all of that, I have a couple of questions and I'd like to thank the viewers for sending those in, and please keep them coming. Debbie from Holland writes, "Hi, can you tell me what, in your opinion, is the best portrait lens for my Nikon D7200? My studio is not that big and my budget is less than $1,000. Hope to hear from you soon, and thanks for your tutorials." Well, Debbie, that's a great question, and thank you for that. You don't have to spend a whole lot of money to get a great portrait lens. For your camera, I would recommend going with a 50mm f1.8, or if you have a little bit of extra funds, go with the f1.4. Make sure you get the G version, so the f1.4G or the f1.8G, and those will give you a great creamy depth of field. If you're opening them up, you're going to notice that the portraits from that are excellent. Thanks for your question. Shai writes, "Thank you for your reviews. Can you tell me how the 300mm f4 lens behaves with a teleconverter? Can you recommend to me which teleconverter to use with this lens? My body is a D7100. Thank you." Shai, that's a great question. I have not used that lens with a teleconverter, but the TC1.4 from Nikon will work perfectly with it. There's also a few off-brand ones. The Kenko comes to mind. It's a very good teleconverter as well. But I think the Nikon teleconverter is best suited for the Nikon lenses. So take a look at that and you'll have full range of functionality with your lens. Now remember that your focal length becomes quite a bit longer, so stability becomes an issue, so you might want to consider using it on a tripod. Thanks for your question. So let's go and meet Tony Beck, a Nikon ambassador. We'll meet him out in the field and get some tips on shooting wildlife. Hey, we're in the great outdoors again. I'm joined by Tony Beck. Tony, we met the last time. It was the hottest day of the year, and so far this year, this is the coldest day of the year, so we've got both extremes.
It's nippy.
Yeah, it's cool. -5 in the Ottawa area this morning, and so we're out looking at birds. Tell us what we're seeing here.
Well, we've got about maybe between 8,000 and 10,000 snow geese here, greater snow geese. They're coming down from North Baffin Island, Quebec, and now they're coming into eastern Ontario to stage for part of the fall, and then as soon as the snow comes in, they're going to move on down to Pennsylvania, closer to the Atlantic. This is only a small portion of the birds that are in the area. We had about 80,000 the other day, but it's still pretty significant, and there could be some good photo opportunities about to happen.
Cool. Well, speaking of photo ops, we kind of ribbed each other in the truck today, and we both decided we're going to use the same camera. So we both have a Nikon D7200, but we made some slightly different lens choices, and Tony won't even let me touch his lens, so tell us what you got there.
You're allowed to touch it.
You just can't take a picture with it.
Well, I want to keep touching it too. I really love this lens. I've got the new Nikon 200 to 500 f5.6 zoom lens, incredibly versatile, easy to handle, and the more I use it, the more I'm falling in love with this lens, and it could possibly be one of the best wildlife lenses I've ever used.
Cool. Well, they are in such short supply that I wasn't able to get my hands on one. So, but I have the next best thing because, well, I've got the best lens. I reviewed this lens a couple of episodes ago. This is a Tamron 150 to 600, and I've fallen in love with it. It's got the VR. Now, it's a little bit slower. It's 6.3 at the low end, f5 to f6.3, but it does have the vibration control, which is the same as the VR. So let's put it to the test. We'll take some shots and have some fun, and hopefully the birds will cooperate, and maybe something will come out and spook them and get them up in the air.
Sounds good.
Cool.
I can't wait. That's it. That's it. That's it. Yeah, that's
Get
it. Yay!
So Tony, we're getting a little bit of action out here.
Yeah, this isn't too bad at all, actually. The last little group that we had was a nice tight concentration, so I was able to fill the frame edge to edge, and that's exactly what I want. I want some geese on the lower portion on the horizon, and then I want a lot of birds in the air, nice and tight, edge to edge snow geese filling the frame.
Cool. Now, I asked you the question earlier, but just for the viewers, when you're looking at something, we had these wonderful little rays of light that just came out. They're gone now, but it was so nice. When you're shooting this type of scene, I assume you're in matrix metering. Okay. And you mentioned something that when you're in the field, you're stepping down a little bit.
I'm stepping down. Yeah, that's because I edit my images and I will brighten them up. I'm exposing for the highlights.
Okay.
So if I'm aiming the camera up in the sky, the meter is telling me it's 100%, which it makes an 18% gray.
Yeah.
But when I bring the frame down, I'm underexposing by about a stop or so. Okay. But that's okay. As long as I don't burn out those highlights, that's what's important to me.
Right.
And I'm shooting in manual exposure, 100% manual exposure.
Okay.
So I'm setting all my controls manually. I've got my shutter speed at 1/1000th of a second. Actually, I've got it at 12/50th of a second. Aperture is at f8, and the ISO is at 400.
Okay, cool. Well, just for the viewers, I mean, we're going to show some pictures that we're taking, just to give the viewers an idea of the different lenses. And I've decided to go a slightly different route, and just because I like to be different, I've gone into aperture priority, and I'm at f6.3, and I'm running, right now I'm looking through and I'm seeing 1/2500th of a second. And I bumped my ISO up. I actually bumped it up to 1000 ISO because the experience that I've had with this camera, I've had no real problems. I mean, a little bit of selective noise reduction, but very, very little. I mean, this camera is really capable.
Yeah, it's incredible. I've shot as high as 1600 ISO and selective noise reduction in areas where I don't need a lot of detail, but the noise is so low, even at 1600 ISO, that you're getting a lot of detail, a lot of color, a lot of contrast and resolution.
Right, and then we both chose the crop sensor because it's giving us that
extra
little bit of reach, right?
Yeah.
Because you're a 750, and this one here, well, we're a little bit longer than that, but that doesn't really matter when we're this far away.
It's a great camera for wildlife, especially if you're using these new zoom lenses.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully we'll get another rise, and if not, we're going to go find that other flock that's maybe a little bit further east than here. But
sounds good.
So far, it's looking pretty good here.
It's a great day.
We'll send our sound man over to the field and get him the flock.
Oh, okay, some are coming back now. This could be interesting. Whoa, here we go, yay! They're coming. They're coming this way. Well, this is it, man. This is what we want. I mean, this is pretty close to Castleman. You know, not quite the
not quite the volume.
No.
But they're actually closer to us.
They are closer, and there's no heat distortion.
Gotta love those fall contrasts with the dark clouds in the background and the direct sunlight. Oh, that was a nice little bonus.
Yeah,
They're all in
that
the
was.
same field now.
They're all in the same field, yeah.
Well, I hope you enjoyed that tip, or those tips. Tony brings out an awful lot of insight. Make sure you check out his website, alwaysanadventure.ca. We recorded this segment while we were traveling on the road, and we were off to another place, a little town called Castleman on the east side of Ottawa. And when we got there, the winds were really high, and we never did get to record the final segment of this interview. So I want to thank Tony for coming out and being with us today and sharing his knowledge. I can't stress enough how important it is, or how beneficial it is to hire a guide or to hire a professional photographer to help show you the ropes. And you'll notice that your learning curve is going to increase exponentially. Well worth the investment. So let's take a look at a new product from Cactus that allows you to trigger your camera remotely with lasers. Check it out. Hey, here's a cool product from Cactus. It's the LV5 laser trigger. This is this is the laser part. It's actually a class 1 laser, so make sure when you're using this that you don't point it into someone's eyes. And it's a very simple system, really, when you think about it. This is the receiver, and what happens is that when the laser gets broken by a moving object, it fires the shutter button on your camera. So that can be kind of cool. You can do all kinds of neat stuff here. Freezing frame, you could have photo finishes at a race, your pet running in towards your light or running in towards your camera. You could freeze frame them right at that optimum spot, maybe put a little jump there. Cyclists out in the woods, I'm going to put a link to a tutorial that a friend of mine, Will Prentice, from Amplis Photo did, or from Photo News, I should say. And I'll put a link to his video there so you can go check out what he did. We're going to do something in the studio that's a little bit easier to do, that everyone can give a try to. So let's get back into the system. This is the receiver, and this is what controls your camera as well. There's a couple of ways that you can do it. You can either hardwire your shutter to the jack here that's on the bottom, or better yet, this has got a built-in radio transmitter that transmits to a Cactus 5 receiver that you can mount near your camera. And with that, you would have the shutter cable, and you can order different shutter cables for different cameras. If you check out the website, you'll see all the different cameras there, and it'll tell you exactly which shutter cable to order. So we'll talk about that in a little bit more in a minute. On here, you've got a power button. You have a delay, so you can change the delay of the action to the camera, and that's going to depend on where you place it in relative to when you want the camera to fire. We'll talk about that a little bit more in the studio tutorial. And then you have another button which is for single shutter or single release, or multiple exposure or multiple shutter release, so high-speed shutter release. And then lastly, on the bottom here, you have another dial with the radio frequency that this transmits the signal to the Cactus receiver. So when you're using this, you make sure that this channel number matches the one on the receiver. And that's pretty much all there is to that. It's all about where you place it. And we're going to talk about that a little bit more. On here, on your receiver, this plugs into your camera. Now I've got the Nikon 10-pin unit here, so I'm going to use it with my D4 today. And then when you turn this on, first of all, you make sure that you're on the right frequency. That's your dial there. And then when you turn it on into the receiver mode, because this is your transmitter, this is your receiver. It takes the signal from here and fires off your shutter. Now, You can also mount a second Cactus on top of this, so you can stack them and have the second Cactus as another transmitter transmitting to your speedlights. In that case, you'll want to make sure that the second unit is on a different frequency. Any of the other 16 channels will be fine. That way you're not interfering with the transmitter that's in the laser system. So remember, the transmitter and the trigger system and the flash system have to be on different frequencies. In my case, I'm going to use it with the Pocket Wizard unit. So I'm going to use this one here to trigger off the shutter, and then I'm going to mount a Pocket Wizard on the camera to fire my flash. And in that case, it doesn't matter what frequency I put it on. Or again, if you want to hardwire your flashes, that's entirely up to you. But for me, I love the convenience of not having wires. So it all sounds a little bit intimidating at first because you've got some stuff that we're not quite used to dealing with, and some people find that a little bit scary. So let's go into the studio. I've got a really fun, simple shot set up for you, and what we're going to do is we're going to walk you through the steps of setting these things up and getting all the components to talk to each other, and you'll see it's not that scary. Let's go check it out. Okay, so we're in the studio. And we've got a setup here with some water. We've got a little vase of water that I picked up at a local thrift shop. And I've put in, roughly 30 centimeters or a foot of water in here. You can see the water line right at my finger. And we're going to do the classic strawberry in water shot. We're going to drop a strawberry from about this level. And I've got 2 strawberries in here. I don't want to touch them yet because I don't want to blemish them. And we're going to drop them, not from very far because it is going to make a bit of a mess. But what I'm trying to do is capture the water. Here's my water line. I'm trying to capture my strawberry right about there. And at that point, we're going to see a little bit of a splash, and it's going to be a lot of fun. So we've got our laser trigger set up. I've already pre-measured. I've set the beam so that the beam is actually going right through the water line. So as soon as the strawberry touches the water, that's when I'm going to get my shot. And I can do that just by looking in through here, and I can actually see the beam reflecting in the receiver. Also, on my receiver that goes to the camera, I can see that when I break the beam, you can see this light coming on, and I know that I've got it lined up. So it's that easy to set up. What's tricky is figuring out how high you want that laser to cross about. And I've done a little bit of testing in beforehand. Of course, now we make a bit of a mess. I've done some testing in beforehand, and I know that I want that beam to be just above the water line. All right, how are we going to light it? We're going to use a speed light. First thing I like to do when I'm using a speed light is to plug in a battery pack. The battery pack helps make the speed light faster, and when I'm using it here in the studio, I'm firing it a lot, so I'm not stressing out the batteries in here. I'm going to turn on my speed light really, really quickly, and we're going to plug in a Pocket Wizard, because we talked about we had to fire or trigger the speed light. So we're going to turn on our Pocket Wizard. And you can use any type of radio receiver. It's just this is the one that I use here in the studio. And you'll see that there's no problem using the Pocket Wizard along with the Cactus. All right, so we've got that set up. Now, next thing is I don't want flash to come into the camera. So I'm going to use a little bounce card. This one's from Aurora Light Bank. And we're going to pop that, and it's going to act as a flag. All right, and it goes on with a Velcro strap. And all that's doing is it's directing the light into the vase, but keeping it away from the camera. Next, I want to make sure that my flag is not interfering, and I can see right here that I've got a clear beam. Okay, so the camera today, it's a Nikon D4, and I'm using a Nikon 105mm macro lens. Now, you don't need to use a D4 for this shot, and you don't really need to use this lens either. But this lens is a good combination. It works really well for this shot. I have it in my kit, so I'm going to use it. The D4, I'm using it because the cable that they sent me with the Cactus unit is the cable that fits the D4. They know I'm a Nikon shooter. Now remember, you can order this cable for any camera that you have. So we just plug that into the front jack on the camera. I'm trying to do too many things with one hand here, but hey, that's real life, so we're not going to change anything. Now, there's a hot shoe on top here. I did notice a bit of a synchronization issue with the Pocket Wizard, off brands, 2 different brands. They don't play together very well. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to let this hang. I'm not going to use the pass-through hot shoe, and I'm just going to mount my Pocket Wizard on top. So this is controlling the flash, and this is receiving the signal from the laser trigger. Okay, so I've got my camera set up in the portrait mode, and first things I'm going to do here is I'm going to turn off my automatic focus, and I'm going to turn off the VR. I'm using a 105mm lens, and again, it doesn't really matter, but the closer you can get up to it, the better off you're going to be, just because you're not showing the sides of the vase. I'm going to take a pencil, and I'm going to put the pencil right in the middle, just touching the water. And that's my focusing tool. I'm just going to come in over here, and I'm going to focus in on my camera, on my pencil lead, and I know that right in the center, I've got my focus locked in. Camera settings. I'm at ISO 100. I'm at f/25. I want my aperture to be as closed down as possible so I get the most depth of field I can. And I've got my shutter speed set at 1/160th of a second so that it doesn't bring in the studio lights. Now, I don't have a very nice background, so what I want to have is something really nice and dark. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring in a piece of foam card, and I'm just going to walk over here, and it's on a stand, and I've got it on here with a clip. It's just a piece of foam core. I'm going to bring that in behind, and that's my black background. And it's far enough back that it's going to be out of focus, and it's not going to be seen by the light. So that's my setup. Now all we have to do is drop a strawberry and we're all set. We just did a quick test shot, and I'm firing okay. My laser beam's working. And now all I have to do is line up the strawberry and give it a drop. And you can see the splash, it makes a big mess. So as you can see, we got our lineup just right. The strawberry is lit right in the middle. But the problem is it's really dark on this side of the strawberry because all of the light's coming directionally. Really, really easy to fix. I've taken a piece of foam card and I've just made a cut here with a razor blade just down one side, leaving it so that I didn't score the paper on the other. And I actually measured this so that it would be below my waterline. So now what's happening is my flash is bouncing onto the flash card, and a little bit of light is going back towards the strawberry, and I'm able to get light on both sides. So let's give it a try. I'll reach in here, grab my strawberry, and a real quick drop. 1, 2, 3. And there you have it. It's as simple as that. Now I can drop this a whole bunch of different times, and what's really fun is playing with the angle that I dropped the strawberry at, and by changing that ever so slightly, I'm going to get a different splash, and I'm going to get a different shot. So try it at home. It's really, really easy. Yeah, it's a bit messy, but it's a heck of a lot of fun. Well, that's our show for today. I hope you enjoyed watching it as much as we enjoyed putting it together. A big thanks to Nikon, Tamron, and Cactus for providing the gear that we used in today's show. And without the help of our sponsors, and without the help of the volunteers, and without your viewership, this show would not be possible. So make sure you subscribe to the channel. That way you won't miss the next episodes coming out. Check us out on Facebook and see what's going on there, and a little bit of news, a little bit of behind the scenes stuff. And leave us your comments down below, good or bad. We want to know what you're thinking. We want to make the show better for you. So with that, thanks for watching. Remember to get out there and shoot lots, because pixels are free. Catch you on the next one. Bye for now.